Hello and thanks for joining us from our studios in Israel. I'm Aaron Porras, here with ILTV's morning briefing. It looks like President Trump has finally made up his mind. Tonight, Trump will announce his decision on whether or not the United States will remain in the JCPOA nuclear deal with Iran or not. But for most, the writing is already on the wall. The feeling is that Trump will almost certainly be announcing his decision to nix the deal altogether, a threat he's been making since his days on the campaign trail. This is the outcome Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu is hoping for as well. Netanyahu recently made a shocking primetime television release of recovered Mossad intelligence taken from Iran's nuclear archive, documenting its 2003 nuclear program. The PowerPoint presentation was almost tailor-made to target President Trump and sway him towards dropping the deal. But analysts largely agree that Netanyahu's intel only proved the need for the deal in the first place. Trump has fired most of his top advisors in recent months who were for the deal and replaced them with opinions that match his own. At this time, it's unclear if Iran will remain in the deal if America walks. European leaders and the rest of the deal's co-signers are scrambling for a way to keep Iran committed to the terms. That's because if Iran were to walk, it would be able to enrich the necessary uranium needed to develop a bomb almost immediately. Israel would obviously never allow such an outcome, which is why most believe Netanyahu only wants the deal to collapse in order to justify launching an offensive and starting an all-out war. The president will address the American people tonight, but that's a speech that people around the world will be anxiously tuning in for. Japan's Prime Minister Shinzo Abe visited Israel with his wife last week for talks with Prime Minister Netanyahu. Netanyahu even hosted his Japanese counterpart at his private home for a home-cooked meal courtesy of top Israeli chef Segev Moshe. But it turns out that the dessert delivered a bit of a kicker of a diplomatic faux pas. Moshe's dessert featured pralines served in a metal sculpture of a shoe. And if there's one thing to know about Japanese culture, it's this: Japanese can find even the mere sight of a shoe totally offensive. In Japan, shoes are always taken off before entering someone's home. Even talks with foreign leaders in parliament meetings are often conducted totally shoeless. An Israeli diplomat who served in Japan said it best, quote, "It's like giving a Jewish guest chocolate inside a vessel in the shape of a pig," end quote. Even though the dish was served in a metal sculpture of a shoe and not an actual shoe, people in the room could reportedly tell that the effect was totally lost on Prime Minister Abe and his wife. Though they enjoyed the meal overall, the somewhat insensitive faux pas left a bitter taste on the whole trip. A week later, Japanese diplomats say Abe and his wife were totally offended by the incident. Israelis aren't a politically correct people by nature, so they mostly find the whole thing rather funny. But on the other hand, others say that this is exactly the kind of attitude that threatens Israel's ambition to be seen as a fair and westernized society. The Israeli start to the Giro DItalia cycling race has ended, and while Israelis are applauding what's become the largest sporting event in Israeli history, participants in the race were left less than impressed. Defending champ Tom Dumoulin called the last leg in particular the worst, most hazardous spring he's ever done, adding that it was really dangerous and he's glad he survived. Speaking to reporters after finishing in second, Dumoulin said, quote, "I'm glad it's over. The desert, boring. The first day was okay in Jerusalem, and it's nice because I won the time trial. But the past 2 days haven't been so nice. It was too dangerous. It was not safe anywhere in the peloton," end quote. Other riders also complained that the urban and road hazards, as well as sandy winds, which reached up to 24 kilometers per hour or 15 miles per hour, combined for a very rough trip. Not everyone was so critical, though, with three-time Tour de France winner Chris Froome saying there was positives and negatives, and that the Israeli portion was unlike any other race he's done. The Giro d'Italia came to Israel in the first place as part of a new effort to bring both in cash flow as well as promote the sport. Israel paid upwards of $13 million to Giro to bring the race to the Jewish state, and the race itself cost another $33 million. The race will now pick up in Sicily, finally ending in Rome at the end of the month. The new United States Embassy in Jerusalem is just days away from opening now, and already signs in Jerusalem pointing the way have been erected. Much to the delight of Jerusalem Mayor Nir Barkat, who tweeted that this is not a dream, workmen were seen installing the black and white signs written in English, Hebrew, and Arabic across the city. Unfortunately, despite many back and forths, United States President Donald Trump will not be in attendance. As it stands, the ribbon-cutting ceremony will be attended by over 1,000 dignitaries, including a 250-person delegation from the United States led by Secretary of the Treasury Steven Mnuchin, and which is joined by Trump's daughter and son-in-law, Ivanka and Jared Kushner. Palestinian Authority coffers are about to be in an even deeper bind as the Knesset has advanced a draft law that would further freeze PA funding over payments to terrorists. If the draft passes the second and third readings, then in addition to the U.S.'s Taylor Force Act and cuts to Palestinian aid organization UNRWA, hundreds of millions of dollars could be withheld from the PA. The draft legislation, which passed the first reading in a vote of 55 to 14, targets tax revenues which are collected and then transferred to the PA. This law would freeze those returns pending the end of payments to terrorists and their families. Defense Minister Avigdor Lieberman tweeted that, quote, "We are shutting off the tap on Abbas," adding that this madness that we're transferring money to the Palestinian Authority that is used to encourage terror against us will cease. Opponents to the bill, mostly from the Joint Arab List, called the draft extortion. But indeed, there are two specific Palestinian laws that anchor financial support for terrorists, and according to the way these laws pay out, Israeli defense officials estimate that many terrorists would take home over $2.7 million each throughout their lifetimes, just for attacks that end in Israeli jails. That's all for now. I'm Aaron Porras, and see you later with our main daily broadcast from Israel at 2 p.m. Eastern Time.